Namaskar. Welcome to Ancient Wisdom. Ancient Wisdom Business Principles. I have culled out 27 business principles which used to support the businesses in yesteryears. Of course, the business was controlled by the Vaishya community out of the four Varna: Kshatriya, Brahman, Vaishya and Shudra. So, Vaishya were the main in terms of business as trade or even farming, and then second came the Shudra. So, what were the business principles? Today we will see three of them. The first business principle is that of yearly closure. So, does not matter what you do, whatever business you do, you will close your accounts at the end of 1 year on an agreed date. What does closing the accounts means? Closing the accounts means closing all debts, closing all credits, taking all money out of business, zero stocks, and then next day start again as opening stock. So, what happens if somebody owes you money and is not able to repay on that day? You just forget about that debt. Next day he comes in, you treat him as a fresh customer. This way the books would be closed. Now, how does business continue with this? Nobody would pay. The second business principle: a debt is supposed to be a family debt, and if there is a debt and if you do not pay back in this lifetime, you have to take births to repay it again and again. With this being the dharmic principle, people would go to any extent to clear their debt before the book closing time of the year. So, they would try to do everything to repay the debt. Now, just consider if this was to happen in today's time, how happy the situation would be. Ask any banker, ask any sahukar. If people are willing to pay back their debt before the year ends, and they do every single thing to keep their word, today's banking profession would be a greatly happy place. But the second part of the second principle itself is that a good son inherits father's credit or father's debit. That is, the son or the progeny would take over to repay the debt if it was incurred during the year. If the father's death happens during the year, what happens to the debt? That debt will be carried to the last day of the year, and if the children are not able to pay back, that debt would be written off. But as good children, they would try their best to be able to repay their debt, so that their father who has departed does not have to suffer in the afterlife. Now we come to the third business principle, and this third business principle is that of continuity or physicality of the transaction. The transaction used to be physical and physical only. So, if you trade with goods, you exchange one good with the other, or it is cash for some good. So, it is on cash basis and not on accrual basis. The advantage of this is that there would not be any fractional lending. Fractional lending is the biggest positive part in today's banking. At the same time, it is the biggest bone of contention and biggest problem with current banking. See, the difference between age old Sahukar and today's banks is that the Sahukar has 100 rupees, he can only lend 100 rupees. He cannot lend anything more. He cannot lend anything by taking something on loan. So he might have taken 1,000 rupees loan, but he cannot extend that loan to his customers. He has to extend a physical loan to his customers. So if he has a property, if he has a cash, if he has gold of 100 rupees, only that he can give to the customers or to his borrowers. Whereas some borrower or the Sahukar, he borrows 1,000 rupees from somebody, he cannot lend it. But this is exactly what banks today do. They borrow and they lend. They don't have. That is why when the borrower defaults, the bank closes down. Not only that, it affects all its lenders. And this is because of the fractional banking and loan banking, which was not a feature existing in ancient times at all. So if at all somebody does not repay back the Sahukar's money, the Sahukar goes bankrupt, or he doesn't even go bankrupt, he has zero money. But that is zero, it stops at zero, it cannot go below zero. His land and holdings remain where they are. His only cash which he has transacted goes away. So these are the three beautiful business principles, age old business principles, very difficult to practice in today's time, but if practiced, the whole economic scenario would change. First, that of yearly closure. Secondly, the repayment of debt taken as honor. And third is lending only what you have. Namaskar.